Thursday, the 26th of January. Allow me to start our announcements of the day by extending our condolences and our comfort to the victims of the knife attacks that took place yesterday in Germany and in Spain. As you know, yesterday afternoon, 2 people were killed and several more were injured in an attack on board a train in Schleswig-Holstein in Germany. And later in the day, in Algeciras, in southern Spain, a man was killed and a priest was wounded during an attack in 2 churches. Our thoughts are with all the victims, their families, and their communities. Puis, en revenant aux affaires de la journée, je voudrais vous signaler que la Commission a adopté aujourd'hui ses décisions sur les procédures d'infraction du mois de janvier. Vous trouverez tous les détails sur ce paquet d'infractions dans notre package Daily News. En ce qui concerne les réunions de la journée, veuillez noter que les ministres des Affaires intérieures seront à Stockholm pour une réunion informelle. La commissaire Ylva Johansson,
the Commissioner, will be taking part on behalf of the Commission. The Commissioner this morning presented to Ministers the operational strategy for more efficient returns that she presented to the press last Tuesday. Ministers will also discuss a coordinated approach to the challenges of migration at the moment. As you know, that's one of the 2 subjects which will be on the agenda of the Council on the 9th and 10th of February. In the afternoon, ministers will discuss with the EU coordinator in the fight against terrorism about the dialogue with Ukraine regarding internal security, as well as on the fight against organized crime in the digital era. The Commissioner will take part in a press conference which will take place around about 5 p.m. And as usual, we would be grateful if you would keep your questions on all of those subjects for that press conference. I have the great pleasure to welcome a group of visitors from France Télévisions who are with us today. I believe it's 17 journalists and editors who are taking part in a seminar about media coverage of the EU's reaction to the war in Ukraine, and I'll be looking forward to meeting you later on after the midday press briefing. Our last announcement, I left my glasses home, so I can't see you as well as normally, so if I can't say who it is I'm giving the floor to, I do crave your forgiveness.
Voilà qui clôt nos annonces pour la journée.
That's the end of my announcements, and we can now move on to your questions.
Nawab, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I have 2 questions on foreign affairs. One is on the rising tensions in Palestine today, where Israeli soldiers have shot and killed 9 Palestinians, including an elderly woman. And my second question was on your reaction to the announcement by Iran yesterday to put sanctions on some MEPs and some other European officials. Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you, Nawab. Indeed, what happened yesterday and what's happening on the West Bank, unfortunately, is illustrating with yet another example what High Representative Borrell was talking about already on Monday, ahead of the FAC, that the situation on the ground, unfortunately, is very dire and worrisome with continued high level of tensions. And the European Union has repeatedly expressed its grave concern about the increasingly high number of civilian casualties in the occupied Palestinian West Bank. Last year, we saw a record number of casualties, of Palestinian casualties, the highest since 2006. This is a negative trend. This negative trend, of course, is to be seen also in the light of the wave of terrorist attacks in Israel last year. But unfortunately, this negative trend is continuing also, regrettably, this year. While we note Israel's legitimate right or its legitimate security concerns, we reiterate our position that the use of force and the use of lethal force must be proportionate and in line with the international law, and only be applied as a last resort when it is strictly unavoidable and in order to protect life. So we once again call on both parties to do their utmost to de-escalate the situation and to end this vicious circle of violence. And on your second issue regarding the retaliation or the imposition of Iranian sanctions against also EU citizens and EU representatives. These Iranian measures, as we said before, because this is nothing new, these Iranian measures are purely politically motivated, and we as the European Union, we reject them fully. In contrast, the EU sanctions adopted recently in 4 rounds already have been adopted on a clear legal grounds with a clear justification based on the evidence about human rights violations by those who were sanctioned against the Iranian civilians and population. So we continue to call on the Iranian authorities to ensure the accountability and basic freedoms for its own people, for its own population, including the freedom of expression, and to stop the unacceptable repression and oppression that is being used in pushing back on their legitimate use of the right to protest and express their opinions in a peaceful manner.
Thank you very much. Any other questions for Peter on these issues? Nawab, you pulled a fast one on us by treating 2 subjects at the same time, but we'll pardon you. Any other questions for Peter on this? Please only keep your hand raised in the chat if your questions are on this. Rosie, you have the floor. Please switch on your camera. No? Technical issue? Okay, any other questions on foreign affairs issues for Peter today? David. You have the floor. But you need your camera, please. Okay, whilst you try to solve that issue, if you can, we will go to Weiwa. Weiwa, you have the floor.
A question.
Hold on. Go ahead. We didn't get to the beginning of your question. Go ahead.
Okay, I have a question regarding European Commission's announcement to launch a fellowship program with China. You know, I don't know if you could provide more detail. What's the rationale to launch this program? Who proposed this? What do you intend to achieve? Who can apply? When it's going to start first group? Will you engage the Chinese in this fellowship? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Weiwa. Well, I think that the underlying rationale to setting up this fellowship program is explained in the chapeau that we published yesterday. It is to further deepen our understanding of China. China is obviously an extremely important country and partner of the European Union, and whilst we of course have expertise in the European Union, we believe that we could further reinforce this across a series of policy fields. I'm not going to repeat them here. They were mentioned yesterday in the chapeau which we published. When it comes to when the program will start, well, the first call for expression of interest will be launched shortly. When it comes to who can participate, well, it's open, obviously, as you would expect, to people who can prove to us that they have significant expertise on China in one or more of the policy areas that we have listed yesterday. So that's what I can say on this program. Okay. I see no further questions on this, and therefore we will move to other issues, and I will try to connect again to Rosie.
Hi, can you see me and hear me this time?
Yes, go ahead.
Great. Yeah, so a foreign affairs question, but not on the previous issues. I know High Representative Borrell and a number of commissioners are in South Africa. I was hoping to get something on camera about what they are doing there and what they hope to achieve. Thank you very much.
Nabila.
Hello, Rosie, and thanks for your question. Indeed, the HRVP Borrell and we have several also commissioners for financial and services and financial stability and capital markets, Meret McGuinness, Commissioner for Health and Food Safety, Stella Kyriakides, and Commissioner for International Partnerships, Jutta Urpilainen, who have just landed in South Africa. HRVP Borrell will be participating this afternoon in the EU-South Africa bilateral consultations, and this is ahead of the political dialogue. Tomorrow, the High Representative Borrell will also co-chair together with the Minister for International Relations and Cooperation of South Africa, Dr. Naledi Pandor, the 15th South Africa-European Union Ministerial Political Dialogue, which will take place in Pretoria. The aim of the Ministerial Political Dialogue is, of course, to take stock of EU-South Africa overall cooperation and to prepare the way for the EU and South Africa summit. The ministers will discuss the next steps to further strengthen the South Africa-European strategic partnership. Ministers will, of course, review the strategic partnership focusing on various areas of mutual interests, including peace and security, multilateral cooperation, bilateral trade and investment, vaccine production and health, climate change, renewable energy, the just energy transition, science, innovation, and education. There is a very wide menu here. There will be a press conference. I invite you to follow it and to follow EBS. You have seen probably the daily news also and the media advisory that were published.
Thank you. Any other questions for Nabila on this visit and these meetings? No. So let us move on to other issues. I give the floor to David.
Yeah, it was for Peter. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Maybe Nabila as well. But it's just on the political background, the timeline for the sanctions, just the not the review, but just the setting of a price cap on petroleum products. I was wondering when that's being discussed and whether we're sticking to the time of doing it before the 5th of February. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That would be for Dan, but obviously, indeed, the 5th of February is an important deadline in this respect. Dan.
Thanks, David. Indeed, we are sticking to schedule with the ban on the import of refined products into the European Union on the 5th of February. And of course, there are ongoing discussions now with both our G7 partners and with member states on the introduction of a price cap on these products. All I can say at this exact moment in time is that the internal procedures are ongoing. And of course, stay tuned for any announcements that we may make over the coming days on this.
David, you have a follow-up.
Yeah, could you just confirm that the Commission has made a proposal to Member States about setting the price level for petroleum products in the updated sanctions? Thanks.
Dan.
Thanks, David. I know that the internal process is ongoing right now. I cannot confirm at this exact moment in time whether that has been transmitted to the Council, but I will check and get back to you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let us move on to other issues. Other questions for us today? Sandor.
Eric, I hope you can hear me and see me.
Yes.
Great. So yesterday a Hungarian Minister for European Funds was discussing with Johannes Hahn and Maria Gabriel about how to deal with the Erasmus Plus issue, and he said also that the problem is basically solved. Hungary will change the regulation of the board membership of these private universities and everything will be fine. And I would like to know what is the assessment of the European Commission after these talks.
Thank you very much. It would be for Miriam, but I think I can say that indeed yesterday the minister met Commissioner Gabriel and Commissioner Hahn, and the discussion, as you know, was part of our ongoing exchanges with Hungary, with a view to resolving the budgetary issues raised under the conditionality case, and they gave reassurance that Hungarian entities that are concerned by the decision can still apply to calls for proposals and participate in the evaluation and selection procedures of the EU programs in direct and indirect management. And as you know, this has concerned specifically Erasmus Plus and Horizon Europe. Now, both commissioners recalled the importance for Hungary to implement the necessary remedial measures under the conditionality mechanism, which is necessary to enable for award decisions on EU funding to be taken later in the process. And to answer your specific point, we will not go into comments as to the comments that have been made, by the minister. As you know, it is for Hungary to make sure that these measures are not only announced, but that they are also fully implemented. This is what we can say on this today. Any other issues for us today? Desislava.
Bonjour Eric, merci de nous donner la parole.
Good morning, Eric. Thank you very much for the question. I'm from Bulgarian television. I'd like to talk about the sanctions and internal affairs, sanctions against Russia in particular. If a member state of the European Union delivers what we call European blue cards to Russian citizens and to Russian informants, is this a violation of European rules?
Tu veux dire les carte bleue en français, c'est un terme un peu
Well, the blue card in French is a very specific term. So this is a card that allows people to come and work in the European Union. That's a question for Anita, if I'm not mistaken. But Desislava, I think we're going to have to take a closer look at that and come back to you bilaterally. I'm not sure that we have all of the details for that particular case that you've mentioned to give you a reply right now. So we'll get back to you bilaterally.
David, we come back to you, it seems.
Yeah, it's a question for Tim.
Well, please ask your question, and I'll see who it's for.
Okay, so it's on the biofuels. So there were cases of fraud several years ago, and the Commission moved in the 2018 directive to set up a database for certified biofuels. I mean, this is really important in ensuring that they're sustainable. I was just wondering if you can confirm the timeline of that, because the refineries, Fuels Europe wants a delay. There's a certified bodies at ISCC who wants a delay as well, is unsure. I was wondering, are you sticking to the timeline set in the 2018 Renewables Directive? Thanks.
Tim, please.
Hi, David. On that one, I'm going to have to come back to you bilaterally, just in terms of where we are in the technical process and setting things up. So we'll follow up by email this afternoon with you.
Any other questions on energy for Tim whilst he is on the podium? No. Any other issues for us today? I do not see any hands raised, so thank you very much and see you tomorrow.